What's good, everybody? It's your boy Botkin, back from the dead to talk to you today about the Anti-Materiel rifle, otherwise known as the AMR. But first, we've reached 1,000 subscribers, all the way from 200 on my last video with the Arc Thrower guide.
That's quite big. Impressive.
And I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for the support. It's been pretty surreal to just see, how big of a turnout that video got. And it just made me motivated to make more content like this. So, I've been trying to take my time and do a good job. You're really cooking on this one, and hope you enjoy it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The AMR is one of my favorite support weapons in Helldivers 2, able to kill every medium enemy in the game in one shot, while also being capable of killing all heavy enemies quickly with some skill and know-how. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the AMR effectively versus all factions, how to kill entire hordes of enemies by yourself, how to kill all heavies in the game, how to two-chap chargers and hulks, and how to do all of that without being scared of close range. So to get started, let's get into the stats of the AMR. The AMR is a heavy armor penetrating, large caliber rifle that deals 450 damage per shot or 180 durable damage with a 7-round magazine and fast semi-automatic rate of fire. This makes a unique combination of a weapon that has the armor penetration and damage required to quickly kill heavy units to their weak spots, while also being able to rapidly kill large groups of medium targets with one decisive shot apiece.
Tagging location, northeast. New mag! Sending in an eagle!
Heavy, northeast, 50 meters.
Requesting orbit. Heavy, northeast, close.
The AMR also does not take up your backpack slot and can be reloaded on the move. These are both in direct contrast to the Autocannon, which has both a backpack and a stationary reload. The AMR even does more damage, which most don't realize. The AMR is actually only weaker than Autocannon in terms of durable damage, which does matter, but not as much as you would think, as you'll see in this video. The main reasons for this are that, first, AMR has a faster rate of fire than Autocannon, over double in fact, while also, because it doesn't explode, it is also capable of over-penetrating targets and hitting internal weak spots that can only be accessed this way or blowing armor off first. Because Autocannon explodes, it is not capable of over-penetration, which matters for things like chargers, where we have a unique tech that we can do with weapons like AMR that can over-penetrate their soft sack on their rear and hit internal weak spots for triple damage, quickly killing them. Weapons that explode on impact, like Autocannon or a grenade launcher, etc., cannot do this, and I'm going to show you how to do it later in the video when we get to that section. All timestamps are in the description. And just real quick, don't take this list to mean that AMR is just mopping Autocannon on all fronts, or at least most of them. That is not what I'm trying to say here. Higher durable damage on the Autocannon is very strong and lets it hit some breakpoints that AMR can't. But furthermore, AMR's advantages of higher base damage allow it to hit breakpoints that Autocannon cannot, like one-shotting rocket striders, for instance. Autocannon can't do that. Now, Autocannon also has flak mode for chaff clear and things of that nature, which is extremely strong. But for what AMR is good at, I would argue that AMR is better, specifically for penetrating armor and hitting weak spots. But Autocannon is still a great weapon. Please don't take this that way. One major disadvantage the AMR has versus Autocannon is the fact that AMR is the only weapon in the game that does not have a third-person reticle. Now, don't take this to mean that your hipfire is inaccurate. Your hipfire still goes straight, as if you had a third-person reticle. It just doesn't exist, and you have to learn to hipfire without one, which is unique to this weapon, but it can be learned, and I will show you that in this video. And now we'll segue into the art of the AMR no-scope. So as said before, you have no third-person reticle, but your hipfire is still accurate just like it is with any other gun. You just don't have the visual aid to help you. Well, I figured out a way that helps me. So basically, the AMR is a really long gun. You can see how this thing is like a pike and the barrel just sticks out forever. This actually helps with hip firing because it's more easy to basically see where the barrel is pointing the longer it is, right? So what you want to do is just draw a line along the barrel towards the center of your screen in your head and use that. Now, I do play PC, but I do not use monitor aids. I don't have any, special crosshair software or anything like that. I play vanilla Helldivers 2 when it comes to those types of things. And here you can see, plain as day, me no-scoping all kinds of bugs easy without really too much of a problem. You can learn this too. It doesn't take that much practice, and it makes the AMR a really fun gun. It's like a cannon. People, always remember that this is like a sniper rifle, but it must be remembered, this is not just a sniper rifle with a scope or whatever. This is a 50 caliber no scope close range spam cannon. And you can just one tap back-to-back targets with it until you run out of the mag, and it's relatively deep considering how much damage each shot does, and it has a fast reload. So it's actually quite dynamic at closer range when you get good at this.
Never destroy our way of life.
But what about the art of scoping? Say, when you want to use your scope, why would I want to? How do I use it? Etc. Well, the easy answer to that is you want to use your scope when you're attacking small weak points of enemies that require it. So, headshots on Devastators, headshots on Overseers, waist shots on Devastators, or eye shots on Hulks. These are things where outside of close range, no scoping is going to be dubious at best. You're going to want to go ahead and zoom in and aim. The issue, though, is the enemy is not always far away, right? This is why I always leave my scope on low zoom setting, which is the 50 meter. The logic behind this is that on low zoom settings, you have less perceived recoil and ergonomics issues. The gun feels snappier, it kicks less. It doesn't actually kick less, but because you're not zoomed in, the recoil seems smaller, which makes you more effective. You also have a better field of view, and you won't get tunnel vision so much at closer ranges, which, if we're honest, is the grand majority of what you do in Helldivers 2, is close mid-range fights. Furthermore, if you do need to take a fight to long distance, you always have time to dial the scope up, but you won't always have time to dial it down. So in my opinion, always leave it on low zoom. And if you do so, you can use it like a red dot sight and quickly snap onto targets.
Requesting fortification. New mag.
Requesting sentry.
You can see here where I've dialed my scope up because I have time to, at distance, to take out a couple hulks and enemies before pushing the detector tower to take it out. But also notice that when I'm starting to rush forward, that is when I swap my scope back to 50 meters. You can't forget to do this, because if you do, you'll have a hulk 10 feet from you, you'll go in to scope in on him, and you'll see his pimples. It'll be so zoomed in you can't even actually effectively engage the target. So never forget to swap back to 50 meter low zoom. It will save your life. Next, we're going to get into the art of the stance. For those that don't know, standing, crouching, and prone affects your aiming stability. Watch this. You can clearly see that prone is the steadiest, crouch the second best, and standing is pretty awful. It also affects your recoil. See here. Now again in slow motion. You can see this line come up for reference to give you a good gauge. And you can clearly see that prone resets the recoil the fastest and gives you the fastest follow-up shots, followed by crouch and then standing. This is further exacerbated by the increased sway of standing. So what does this all mean for us? Essentially, when you're using the scope, you want to be at least crouched or prone when you can. And back to this clip, you can clearly see that when I went to snipe the overseers, I slid into a crouch stance before using my scope. This is critical and will help you land more shots more easily and make the weapon feel nice and snappy. Not doing this makes the weapon feel awkward and leads to a lot of the resentments people have with the AMR. You basically only want to be standing and shooting when you're hip firing, because it doesn't really matter at closer ranges when you're not trying to be super precise anyway. But when you need precision, always at least crouch or prone at long range.
New mag.
Requesting sentry.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Are you following me now?
You better have a hell of a reason for not being subscribed.
And now for our first faction chapter, the Terminated Front. You've seen quite a few gameplay clips of the Terminated Front already, and what you've seen is relatively consistent with the rest of the faction that I'm going to show you. This is not to be treated as a sniper rifle here. This is a 50 caliber, no scope spam cannon for close range to mid range one-shotting of medium-sized enemies and killing heavies. I'm going to show you how to do all of that here, but first we're going to start with the breakpoints of the different enemies. So first off, obviously all the chaff enemies like hunters, warriors, and scavengers. These are one-shot kills, but it's a waste of ammo, and it's not really recommended to waste AMR shots on small enemies like this. This is really what your primary weapon is for. Medium enemies are where the AMR starts to become useful, and for those we have Hive guards, commanders, and Bile Spewers, all three of which are killed in one shot to the head. For body shots, however, when you don't always have a shot, Hive guards are killed in 2 body shots, commanders in 4, and Bile Spewers in 3 if you shoot all 3 into the green sack area. This isn't bad, but you still want to go for the headshots to get the one-shot kills back to back.
50 meters. Calling down a sentry. Tagging map. West. 100 meters.
You will never destroy our way of life.
Next on the list, Stalkers. Now, Stalkers can also be killed in one headshot, but their face is very small, and it, really it's a difficult shot to make with how fast they move in the middle of fights. I would recommend no scoping them and just firing 3 shots, and that is a guaranteed kill. 3 body, which is quite fast with the AMR, and you might even get lucky and hit the head when you're doing so. So just throwing that out there.
Heavy! Southwest. New mag! Package acquired.
Next up, we're going to start getting into the heavies, starting with chargers, which AMR does surprisingly well against. Now, they are made of material, so anti-materiel rifle, it should be doing pretty well. But we got 3 main types of chargers in terms of their health and, how many shots they take to kill or whatever. You have the Spore chargers, which are about the same as the regular chargers, so they're lumped together. You have the Behemoth chargers, which are the more armored variety. They're quite a bit tougher and they have the most health. And then you have the Rupture chargers. These are the new ones on the Burrowing strain, or the Rupture strain rather, which are quite interesting. They have the most armor on the front, being AP5, which AMR can't penetrate. However, they're also weaker on their sides and back. This lets AMR do exceptionally well against them compared with the other chargers. However, that being said, the optimal way to kill all of these is the same, and it's a 2 to 3 shot kill through their rear weak spot, that soft fleshy sac area. That has no armor, and so since AMR doesn't explode, like I talked about when I was comparing it with Autocannon, since it doesn't explode, it is able to over-penetrate this area and hit internal weak spots on the charger that most weapons can't access. And because of that, it can 2 to 3 shot them by doing this. Here's how. So as discussed, here's a Behemoth charger. I'm going to let him charge me, and I'm going to dodge his charge. And then when he's recovering, I'm going to shoot through the butt into the body. You line it up like a hot dog, and you can clearly see he's bleeding out after 3 shots. Sometimes it'll be 2 if you get a good shot off. And there he goes. He's gone. Next we'll show Rupture chargers, which are even weaker. Next up, we have Impalers, which are pretty easy and a good matchup for AMR, because it's only 5 shots to the top of their forehead when they stick their tentacles in the ground. Now, the only issue is that when they're close to you, they won't stick their tentacles in the ground to expose this weak point. In these such cases, you can shoot one of their legs, basically just dump a whole mag into one of their legs. I believe it's 6 shots. But just dump a mag and then pull out your primary and finish it off, and that'll kill it quickly. Next on our list, we have Bile Titans. These are killed in 12 shots to the head with AMR, which sounds like a lot, but it goes by pretty damn fast considering how quick you can shoot this thing and how accurately. Watch this.
Sentry. Mag's empty.
And next up, we have the dreaded Dragonroach. Now this thing, in terms of stats and how to kill it, it is effectively a flying Bile Titan. You do not want to aim for the wings with AMR. You want to shoot them in the head. It has the same shots to kill as a Bile Titan because they have the same health and armor and durability on this area. It's harder to hit, but it takes the same number of shots. So you just need to dial in and just focus on landing those headshots. 12 shots to the head will kill a Dragonroach. It's easiest when they stop to float. And you can also use different stratagems to make it easier by weakening them. So for example, a 110mm rocket pod or a expendable anti-tank or napalm. These are all good options to weaken the Bile Dragon and allow you to just shoot it in the body to kill it.
Sending in an eagle!
And finally, the Hive Lords. I'm going to be real with you all. These guys are not made of material, and your anti-material rifle is not going to be effective. You can hurt them in the mouth, but they have 150,000 health, and you're going to be better off with different tools if your goal is to go out and kill Hive Lords specifically. My opinion, unless you are going out of your way to kill them, there's actually no reason to, and you can just avoid them and get the mission done. That being said, if you do want to kill them, nah, AMR is not your pick. It can do decent damage to them when their armor's stripped or to their mouth, but there's better options, just straight up. Now for the part of the video where we get into the best bug loadout, starting with the weaknesses that we need to fix. So, what are those weaknesses of the AMR on the bug front? First is obviously going to be chaff clear. This is a precision weapon for taking out elites and mediums. It is not a weapon for killing chaff. Second, it's going to be ammunition. The AMR is a spammy, high economy type weapon. It runs out of ammo relatively quickly. So we're going to have to consider that in our build. So what is that loadout? Well, first off, with our stratagems, obviously we're going to be bringing the AMR. That is a very important part of an AMR build, and you don't want to leave home without it. Second, you're going to want to bring either a supply pack or a laser guard dog. The reason for this being, AMR suffers on ammo and it suffers on horde clear. Both of these things are solved by the supply pack by way of giving you more ammo for your anti-material rifle, your AMR, as well as for your primary and your grenades, which is your primary means of handling hordes outside of your stratagem slots. So you're going to want to bring supply pack to really enable the AMR. The laser guard dog does the same thing, but instead of getting supplies, you just have a turret that follows you around and guards you. This is a good setup, but I prefer the supply pack because I find that if I want to have the most value out of the AMR, and one-shotting mediums back to back, this is something that you would want the supply pack to be able to accomplish. You're not going to be able to do this with your base level of ammo. You'll be tied to your resupply a lot. So, in my opinion, go supply pack. For our third stratagem slot, this is where we're going to put our workhorse horde clear option that we throw on breaches. So, one of the main picks that a lot of people are going to want to bring is a orbital napalm barrage. In this slot though, we're going to want something that has a faster cooldown, and my recommendation to you is either going to be a orbital gas strike, a orbital Gatling barrage, orbital airburst strike, which is personally my favorite. I really like this, especially on the burrower bugs. It's quite good because it digs them up out of the ground and blows them all up. Or lastly, the eagle napalm strike. All four of these options are going to be extremely good for clearing out groups of enemies, and they have short cooldowns and can be used readily at any time they are needed. So this is what you want here. You're going to need something that you can always use. You don't want to just have to rely on your guns and grenades. For your fourth slot, this is where it's going to be, a bit of a flex. This is where, if you want to double down on Horde Clear, bring a Orbital Napalm Barrage here. If you know there's going to be Dragonroaches and you don't have teammates with like a Spear or something, this is where you're going to bring your option for dealing with Dragonroaches, where you don't have to just have AMR. So those best options are going to be things like Orbital Rail Cannon Strike, which is the best one, but it has a very long cooldown and you can only use it, sparingly. Or you can use Eagle 110mm rocket pods. These are like Rail Cannon, but a bit weaker, but you get 4 of them. So you throw one and it'll either do heavy damage to the Bile Dragon, where it's quicker to kill, or it might even scrape them in the head and get a one-shot. This is rare, but it does happen. You can also bring an expendable anti-tank or expendable napalm here. Both of those are very good at handling Dragonroaches. The napalm will be my pick because it has the dual use of being used as a chaff clear option to supplement your third slot. But it's in a new war bond. Not everybody has it, and it also has a longer cooldown. So, you can also put eats here, standard eats that are free. Those are very strong. They have a very fast cooldown. You get 2 shots, and they one-shot every heavy, besides a Hive Lord. Obviously, we're not counting bosses here, but they one-shot every heavy enemy in the game, or at least on the bug front, the most heavy enemies in the game. And they're free. So, great choice. Any of those 4, I would put, you'd be well served. Next, we're going to get into our weapons. So, as said before, AMR's weaknesses are Horde Clear and ammunition. So we want something that is very good at handling a lot of small enemies and has a lot of ammo. So your favorite assault rifle, SMG, or shotgun. It's going to be pretty boring, and there's not anything crazy to really talk about here, but you're going to just want to bring your favorite bullet gun, regular weapon. You don't want something like an eruptor or a crossbow, because you already have a somewhat clunky support weapon. Obviously, when you get good at it, it's not clunky, but you don't want something that suffers at close range and is, risky. You already are kind of being risky bringing an AMR on the bug front. It has good, uses, but it's not popular, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's hard, and so you're going to want something that you can rely on at close range when stuff's in your face that is a little bit brain off and has a lot of ammo. We don't really care about armor pin in this slot because the AMR one-shots all medium chaff, which is the grand majority of your problems that you face on the bug front. It's not really the heavies. The heavies are really only dangerous when they're supported by infantry, and the AMR handles all of the toughest infantry and the heavies. You need stuff to handle all the little guys that are annoying as hell. So hunters, warriors, etc. For your secondary, this is, again, really up for interpretation. This is going to be based on what your primary is. So just use your favorite. I'm weird, and I like to bring Peacemaker. I think it's a pretty good pistol. That being said, I know that that's weird. A lot of people would prefer to bring something like a Talon or a Redeemer. It's a shotgun pistol, etc. That's fine. Bring those, but don't bring grenade pistol. We don't need thermites on this build because the AMR kills all the heavies, right? So we're going to actually bring grenades, like regular-ass grenades, okay? So my recommendation for the grenade is going to be incendiaries or frags. Okay, either one of these works. In my opinion, they're the best for bugs. Frags, you get an additional use, and they have a fast fuse, and they have a ton of damage in them. The only thing is the damage is all, in one go, right? It just goes boom, and it's gone, which is good and bad. It means you don't block off an area, but it also means you don't block off an area, right? So incendiaries have the potential to get a lot more kills. I would definitely go that route if you have them unlocked. They're in the Steeled Veterans Warbond, I believe it is. And, they're very good. You get 4 of them, so it's just a standard, number of uses. But they have a pretty fast fuse. They're not as long as a high explosive, and they make a very long-lasting pool of fire. And this is like having an Eagle napalm, but small, on your pocket. And this is very good, especially in the cave missions, because you won't always have air support. You can chuck a couple of these onto the breach, and it will just annihilate everything that is not large. It's pretty strong. And then lastly, for our armor, this is very easy, okay? So use whatever weight you want. I don't really care about light, medium, or heavy. This is up to you. That'll always be preference. However, the armor passive, that is going to be something that I will put my foot down on. You're going to want to bring engineering kit. And the reason for that is you need more grenades to clear out more small enemies, but also it has recoil reduction, which is very important for AMR. It kicks a lot. It's a 50 caliber space rifle. It needs recoil reduction. So that's my recommendation, guys. On the bot front, the AMR really is a force to be reckoned with. And really the reason for that is that when you open up the description of the AMR, you find that it is a long-range rifle effective against light vehicle armor. The interesting part about the bot front is that it's a bunch of light armored vehicles with legs, okay? So bringing a anti-materiel rifle to take on a bunch of material is always going to be a great choice. But to get started, we're going to get into the breakpoints of the AMR on this faction. And first up, we obviously have troopers. Now these guys are little tiny skeleton robot guys, and they're obviously one-shot by the AMR. You don't want to waste your shots on these though. They're extremely weak. Just use your primary weapon, but just for the sake of the video, they do get one shot. Next up, we have Devastators. These are the primary enemy that you're really going to be fighting. On the bot front, they're the most numerous, real threat, and AMR does well against them. Basically, AMR is capable of one-shotting them either to the head or to the waist, which is that pelvic region right beneath the chest where it glows red. However, AMR can also just do a quick brain-off 2-tap to the chest area or the backpack. This is the easiest method. You only really want to go for the one-shots to save ammo. If you're snapping between a whole bunch of Devastators trying to clear them out quickly, just do the double tap, and you don't have to, aim really well under pressure. And Berzerkers actually share the same one-shot kill zones as all the Devastators, that being the head or the stomach waist area, the glowing red zone. I would recommend, since these are melee units and it's a relatively easy shot, just no scope, or depending on distance, use your scope obviously, the red critical area. You can clear them out very effectively at close range. Actually, if you're being swarmed by Berzerkers, it just completely mops them. So just heads up, very good weapon for them. Next up, we have the Rocket Striders, or the Scout Striders on lower difficulties. These both have the same exact health, actually, in terms of AMR at least. They both are one shot to the pelvic region, which is that little boss area between the legs. Basically, you want to shoot them in their gonads, to be completely frank. And you will take them down in one clean shot, easy peasy, won't be a threat anymore. Now for the Rocket Striders, you can also shoot their rockets, but really you just want to go for the pelvic region when you can. Then we have Hulks. Hulks are the most common heavy enemy you're going to face, most likely. These are 2-shot to the eyeball. AMR does very well against them. You just need to be on your stuff to be able to land 2 consecutive headshots. Okay, so it sounds difficult. It really isn't. Just remember the way of the stance, the way of the scope that I taught in the beginning. You want to crouch down at the bare minimum, and you want to leave your scope on low zoom unless you're sniping. This makes it the most easy method to take them out. Basically, on low zoom, you won't feel tunnel visioned when you're pushed by them and pressured. While also, when you crouch, you have the best recoil and superior aim sway, which will help you land those shots, as you can see here.
Objective critical stratagem available. Liberty dispensed.
Dropship requesting sentry. Calling in a Hellbomb.
Objective located. West, 300 meters.
Calling in reinforcements.
Objective located. West.
New mag.
Requesting sentry.
Next up, we have Gunships, which AMR definitely does well against these. These are definitely made out of material. AMR kills Gunships in 2 shots, which is very quick considering how large the target is that you aim for. You want to shoot them in one of their thrusters. They have 4 of them. It doesn't matter which one you shoot, just pick one and hit it twice. And it's very fast, just boom, boom, dead gunship. You can even see in this clip I'm going to show that I missed 1 shot on both of these, and it was still fast, and I killed 2 without reloading. So, very strong. Next, we're going to talk about tanks. Now there's 3 different varieties of tank, and for the most part they share the same health and breakpoints. But you have the Annihilator tank, which is your regular main battle tank with a big cannon on it. You have your Shredder tank, which is like a anti-air gun, but it's shooting at you, right? And then there's the Barrager tank. Now all of these guys are killed in 5 shots to their weak spot. The only kicker is that besides the Barrager tank, basically the Annihilator and Shredder tanks, they can only be attacked from behind. Now there's ways in our loadout to address this if you aren't able to get behind. However, if you do get behind a tank, say like a teammate's pulling aggro, or frankly you just run up behind them, you will be able to deal with it. Shredder tanks, however, are too mobile for you to run behind. You will die doing this, so don't try it. That's why we're going to have to bring, a stratagem to be able to deal with that, which is the Eagle 110mm rocket pods. I know that's kind of like a recurring meme with my guides, but these are spammable Eagles. You get 4 of them, they auto-target, and they reliably one-shot tanks. So, in my opinion, bring them for when you can't get behind a tank. Barrager tanks, don't waste your Eagle 110s on them. You can just shoot them 4 times in their rocket tubes visible from the front. You don't even have to get behind Barrager tanks. So you're very good against them, but for the other 2, 110s. Or teammate pulls aggro and you help them.
One outpost destroyed.
Have a taste of it. Not today! Requesting advanced weaponry!
Next, we're going to get into Factory Striders, the large hulking behemoths on the bot front. AMR is actually quite good against these guys as far as, non-anti-tank weapons go. When you see one, your first reaction is going to be to defang, or basically disarm, the Factory Strider. They have these 2 miniguns on their chins. These things are extremely deadly. However, your AMR only takes 2 shots to take one off. So there's only 2 of them, so in 4 shots, you have completely ruined the Factory Strider where it can hardly kill any of your teammates, making it very easy for them to follow up, or for you to run underneath the Factory Strider. When you get under there, you will see these doors. These doors are medium pin weak spots, and AMR, is heavy pin, so it does full damage to this area, and will actually kill a Factory Strider in 10 shots if you fire them all on one door. Remember that each door is its own hitbox, so you don't want to spread the shots around. That's going to inflate your kill time. Just shoot 10 shots into one door. Dead Factory Strider. Easy peasy.
Standing in an Eagle!
And the last enemy to discuss is the new War Strider, otherwise known as the Bot Mech. These guys are surprisingly tanky. AMR is not bad for them, but it's not amazing either. So their weak spots are either going to be one of their legs. You just pick one and shoot it. That's a 10-shot kill. It's a big target, so you can spam it pretty quickly, and it's not bad. However, there is also a small hip joint weak spot. This weak spot, though, only saves you 4 shots. So it's a 6-shot kill here, but it's a much smaller target. So in my opinion, you're better off just spamming 10 shots really fast into the leg than going for this 6-shot kill on this little area. The one exception is if you use a stun grenade. A lot of people don't realize it, but stun grenades actually do stun War Striders. And if you pop on one, you can, pretty easily get most of the shots on that joint in that time frame, and then finish it off shortly after. This is a good tactic. Outside of this, though, I would just play with cover and land 10 consecutive hits on their leg. That's just really the most reliable method. And now for the part of the video where we get into our best bot loadout, starting with its weaknesses. So what are those weaknesses of the AMR on the bot front? First, it's going to be the front of tanks. Again, as said before, we can't really kill them from the front with the AMR very easily, and so we have to rely on our stratagems to help us with that. Also, ammunition. The AMR will run out quickly, and we will want to be using it as much as possible to get the most value. So getting into the build to address those weaknesses, obviously for our first slot, we're going to want the AMR. It's very important for AMR build, again. But for our second stratagem slot, we're going to be wanting the supply pack. This is going to help us with our ammo concerns, and it's just going to keep us stemmed and supplied throughout the entire fight. You really want to bring this. Running without it, you will really start to feel it. The main value weapons like AMR have over anti-tank is that you can use them versus a variety of targets and not just heavies, and use them in every fight you're going to run into. And if you don't have supply pack, you're just going to have a harder time doing that. It's just going to come off as, oh, well, you know, I don't have enough ammo to really use it, so bring supply pack. It'll help a lot. For our third stratagem slot, we're going to bring out our favorite Eagle. You can bring whichever you want. I like 110 rockets, but you know, Eagle Airstrike is really good too. I also like that. 500 kg, Eagle Strafe. Anything works as long as it's one that kills heavies. You know, don't bring napalm or cluster bomb, but you know, anything that makes sense on the bot front, bring that. Big booms, right? And then for our last stratagem slot, we're going to bring our heavy fire support that we're going to be using to clear out bases or throwing into, you know, bot drops. This is going to be an artillery barrage of your choice. It really doesn't matter which one. I'm partial to walking barrage, but you know, 380, 120. I mean, hell, even napalm works kind of well on bots. Just bring something that has a long cooldown, that has a very big impact. Laser is a great choice as well. But now we're going to get into our weapons for the build. So for our primary weapon, this is going to be whatever rifle type weapon you like the most. So like an assault rifle or DMR. My personal favorite is the Scythe. And the reason for that is it makes headshots on Devastators extremely easy. It clears out troopers really well, and it has infinite ammo. This is a infinite ammunition, zero recoil laser beam. It trades DPS for precision. On bots, you don't need DPS. The headshots have so little health, you just need the precision of the Scythe. And it saves your ammo for your AMR and lets you, you know, keep it up and ready for when you need it most. Next, we're going to get into our secondary. In my opinion, the best secondary you're going to want for this front is going to be the Senator. It's an AP4 weapon, just like the AMR is. It's not as powerful or anything. Obviously, the AMR is a lot better than the Senator. But the Senator will give you a fighting chance if, say, your mag runs empty on your AMR and there's a Hulk on top of you and you need to land one or two more shots. Senator's the perfect choice. For our grenade, this one's going to be easy. It's going to be stun grenades. They basically turn anyone into an expert marksman. If you have a heavy on top of you, throw a stun, shoot its weak spot, move on with your life. It's the best grenade, just straight up. And we don't need, you know, any grenades for fabricators on the bot front because our Eagles will cover that. So you really don't have a whole lot of downsides for doing this. For our armor, this one's going to be very easy. On the bot front, in my personal opinion, you're going to want to go with heavy fortified armor. The reason for this is you really miss having heavy armor when you don't bring it on the bots. You just die so easily. So you're going to want the heavy armor rating, but also fortified armor increases your explosive damage resist as well as reducing your recoil. And these are both things on the bot front that are very good because we need the recoil reduction for the AMR to land follow-up shots on weak points quickly with a high recoil weapon. This helps a lot. And then, you know, the explosive resist is just kind of, you know, speaks for itself. It's the bot front. You're getting blown up all the time. So it's just a no-brainer choice. And that's the build, guys. And finally, the Illuminate front. On Illuminate, the AMR is definitely a good choice, but in my opinion, this is the hardest faction for AMR as well. Not because it is bad and doesn't do damage, far from it, but purely because of how fast enemies move and how good your aim has to be. This weapon definitely takes some practice to do well with here, but in my opinion, it is well worth it. Able to handle every enemy that you come in contact with. Now first, we're going to get into the Overseers, because these are the most important enemy for you as an AMR sniper on your team. And yes, for this faction, the AMR is a sniper rifle. This isn't like Bugs, where it's a no-scope cannon. You have to be accurate on the squids. And the reason for that is that they get one shot to their head at all ranges. However, it's a 3-shot to their chest. And the reason for that is that even though their health is low enough that AMR should 2-shot their chest like Devastators, they have an armor mechanic that is unique to them. So if you notice, the Overseer is fully plated from top to bottom and looks kind of like a space knight, right? That armor effectively cancels damage until it breaks off. So even though the chest plate only has 175 health on it, which is quite low, that's only like 3 shots of a Liberator, right? Even though it has, that low of health on the chest plate, if you shot it with a recoilless rifle, which does like 3,200 damage, right? That damage gets canceled out. You will not do any damage to the Overseer as long as that armor is there. The only weapons that can get rid of that mechanic are explosives and fire, like flamethrowers, or lasers, applying fire, things like that. For all other weapons, they have to deal with this mechanic. So you really need to be going for the headshots on Overseers. If you don't, you get a decent 3-shot kill, but you really want to be landing those headshots. And it takes practice, but you can clearly see that when you get good at it, you can just one-tap Overseers back to back. Even the flying ones. Speaking of the flying ones, flying Overseers have an additional weak spot that you can utilize, that being their jetpack. This jetpack is a 1-shot kill with the AMR, and it is targetable from the front. There's also a special mechanic that you can use. Our old pal Overpin. Which sounds funny, right? Because I just said that the armor blocks the shots. It does. But the Overpin mechanic still works. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? No. But it does still work. If you shoot an Overseer on the shoulder, even if you miss the jetpack by a little bit, which you can see it when they fly, if you, look really close, you can see it sticking out. But even if you don't hit that, if you shoot their shoulder, oftentimes it'll go through and hit the jetpack and kill them anyway. So if that's probably the most reliable method for flying Overseers. It's a lot easier than hitting their head. But, just heads up that it's a thing. AMR is especially good for Overseers when you consider the Crescent ones. These are the ones that have basically the big fuel rod cannon from Halo. It definitely wasn't from Halo. They will, sit back real far away and just rain plasma fire on you. And at this range, a lot of weapons have a hard time taking them out without closing the distance because they have quite a bit of health and everything. AMR still just one-shots them. So it's a good weapon for hunting Overseers. This is really your bread and butter on this front. Kill Overseers. It's good for everything else too, as you'll see. But the grand majority of your purpose, snipe Overseers. Next, we're going to discuss Voteless. I took a long time with Overseers. I'm going to take a real short time here. Yes, they get one shot. No, you shouldn't shoot them. Alright, moving on. Waste of ammo. Next up, we're going to talk about Harvesters. Harvesters are made of material. AMR is quite good against them, taking them out in only 4 shots to their legs. Not the tall part of their legs, specifically the flat part at the top. So you see how their legs make like this straight up and down stilt setup, but then, you know, towards the top where it connects to their head, it turns into a horizontal portion. You want to shoot one of those 4 times. It's pretty fast, it's pretty good at it. All you need to do is use your primary weapon to take the shields off first and then snipe them.
Requesting sentry. Sending in an eagle. Found something.
And you have to be real careful to not get blasted by their laser. Because at some point they stealth buff this laser, man. It's got crack tracking. So if you see him about to shoot his laser, get out of your scope real quick and juke that laser. It'll just delete you if you let it. But yeah, it's a good weapon for them. Not a problem whatsoever. You can shoot the eye or whatever, but that's a trap. The quickest way is shoot the leg joint. Next, we have really the bane of most people's existence on this front. That is the Fleshmob. This is the Voteless that you actually do want to use your AMR on. Now for reference, these guys have 6,000 health. That is the same health as a Bile Titan. Oh, but earlier in your guide, Bodkin, you killed a Bile Titan in 12 shots. I did. That's because the Bile Titan has a 1,500 health head, which is a lot less than 6,000. So versus Fleshmobs, now they are less durable, so you'll do more damage per shot than you would versus a Bile Titan head. That being said, versus a Fleshmob, it's like 2 whole mags, a little bit over actually, to kill a Fleshmob with just the AMR, but you don't want to do that. It's too high ammo expenditure. What you want to do with the AMR is pair it with a high DPS primary weapon that can handle the zombie hordes for you, right? Saving your AMR for priority targets, while also aiding you versus Fleshmobs. And in my testing, the absolute best weapon for this is the breaker shotgun in the free warbond, the regular default breaker. That thing has extremely high DPS, and if you use your AMR to start, you see a Fleshmob, if you dump a whole mag into it, it'll be, about halfway dead. The breaker will then finish it off in about 3/4 of a mag.
You will never destroy our way of life.
Next up are Watchers. These are the reinforcement callers of the Illuminate front. AMR one-shots them as long as you hit vaguely near the center of their body. If you scrape the edge of their fins, it will sometimes take 2, but for the most part, it's a one-shot kill, which is very nice because you can stop them from calling reinforcements on your team. Very good for that. One shot killed about 60 enemies when you did that, so very strong for this. Then we have the Stingray fighter jets. Now, anti-materiel rifle does really good at taking out material, and that's what this jet is. This thing is a 4-shot kill with AMR. It's a very large target. It doesn't matter where you shoot them on it. It's just like one big health bar. It's low-key kind of dumb, but that's how it is. You don't have to hit any specific part of the Stingray. You land 4 shots on it, and it dies. And you can do that extremely quickly with the AMR because of its fast fire rate. Just let that trigger rip, it's down. And now for the Leviathan gunships. Now, straight up, these things are not made of material, so the anti-material rifle does not anti them. The guns are the only thing on the Leviathan that you can actually damage without stripping armor off first. Now, if you really want to, you could bring like expendable anti-tanks or something, or a anti-tank emplacement to strip the guns off and then use the AMR or whatever, but really there's no point to be attacking gunships. These are boss level enemies, not to the extent of Hive Lords, but they're somewhere on that spectrum, and the best thing to do is to just avoid them and treat them like a weather effect, okay? You don't really get anything for killing them, and they're just kind of a annoying floating entity that decides to shoot at you, and you just decide to put a building between you and them when possible, and that's how you go about your business. Just like any other support weapon, these things take way too long to kill in general. For any weapon, nothing is good for them. This is not a bad mark against AMR, but it must be said, leave these guys alone. So now's the part of the video where we get into our best squid loadout, starting with finding out what the weaknesses are that we need to fix. So what are those weaknesses? First, it's going to be Fleshmobs. And not because AMR is bad for them, but just that we need a good primary weapon to help us out with DPS where we don't have to use as much AMR ammo. And speaking of ammo, the second weakness is going to be high ammo expenditure, the same as all other factions. So what is that loadout that we would have to fix those issues? Well, in our first slot, obviously, we're going to be having the AMR. Again, that is always a crucial pick for an AMR build. For our second slot, however, it's going to be the supply pack again. This is coming in clutch for us on this build, or in this game in general. It's just because AMR, to use it properly, you need to feed it. If you're not feeding it, you might as well go anti-tank, because you want to be able to use it all the time to quickly handle threats, and supply pack allows you to do that. For our third slot on Illuminate, in my personal opinion, Gatling Barrage or Airburst Strike will always serve you well. These do a good job on the squid drops. The Airburst is actually more powerful than Gatling for this purpose. However, Gatling has a quicker cooldown and will also be able to break the grounded warp ships, the spawners basically. A lot of people don't realize that, but if you throw a Gatling Barrage on top of a grounded fabricator ship, it will break it, just like a precision strike, 500 kg, whatever. And it's got a good cooldown and it's multi-purpose. So always a good pick. Use Airburst Strike, however, if you want just raw damage. It will heavily weaken, if not kill outright, all the Fleshmobs if you place it right, and it just completely obliterates all the Voteless, okay? And then for your fourth stratagem slot, we're just gonna want more Horde Clear. We handle all the heavies very well with our AMR, so we don't need anything like that to help us. We just want more Horde Clear. And from my recommendation on the fourth slot, you're going to want a good Crowd Clear Eagle, and those two, in my opinion, that you would choose from are either the Cluster Bomb or the Napalm Strike. These are both extremely good. Cluster Bomb has more uses and does more damage to Fleshmobs. However, it doesn't leave any hazard effects, so it has the potential to either get a ton of kills or very little, depending on how well you place it and how many enemies are in the radius. Eagle Napalm leaves a pool of fire. It has only 3 uses though, but this pool of fire will more often get a high number of kills because it sits around and lasts for a while. However, don't sleep on that cluster. I actually prefer it, but Napalm is a very good option. Okay. Now moving on to our weapons for the build. For our primary, as I showed in the guide, you really want to bring the Breaker shotgun. Not only is it free, it pairs with this weapon perfectly. It has the high damage that we need to finish off Fleshmobs after we mag dump with AMR. It has, nimble handling and a decent amount of ammo to handle the Voteless hordes well, and it's a shotgun, so it's very forgiving in terms of aim against Voteless, and it's just a very solid weapon. I highly recommend it. It is, in my opinion, the best option with the AMR on the squids. Full stop. For your secondary, this is really going to be up, to your interpretation based on what grenade you pick and whatever. Grenade pistol is a good pick here, but in my opinion, the best pistol for the Illuminate is the stock Redeemer machine pistol. And the reason for that is that not only does it have very high DPS to handle an Overseer in your face, it is also extremely good at stripping shields off of harvesters and the ships on the ground. It just makes it quicker for you to go through and handle things like this. It's a good utility, and it's also great self-defense against close range Overseers and Voteless hordes when your Breaker is out of ammo. Like, so your mag's empty, you don't have time to reload, you pop this puppy out and you just mow shit down. It's a great pick. Highly recommend. For the grenade, my personal favorite is the incendiary grenade. It leaves a pool of fire, much like the Eagle Napalm, but smaller and more concentrated, obviously. But it's big enough that it will clear out an entire group of Voteless if they're not, spread out in a wide line. They're usually in like little pockets. The incendiary grenade will just kill all of them. It's very strong against the Overseers as well, and it will do decent damage to Fleshmobs. So that's my personal favorite. It will also close the spawners. So you break the shield off with your Breaker, and then you throw this in, boom, got the warp ship without having to use a stratagem. Very good. And then for our armor, as we went through with the other factions, you really need recoil control to make full use of the AMR. And so you really want to go, engineering kit or at least fortified for that. Fortified is good too. I think engineering kit's a little bit better, so you get more, incendiary grenades. But fortified is helpful and makes you take less damage versus a number of targets on the Illuminate front, primarily the Crescent Overseers plasma bombs that they send out, as well as Stingrays if you mess up. You can actually, face tank a Stingray barrage if you have fortified heavy armor. And speaking of heavy, I would recommend heavy. I know that sounds a little strange. I just really like heavy on Illuminate because you just take so much chip damage all the time, just random plasma shots and Voteless scratches, that when you don't have heavy armor, you really miss it. You get melted so fast, and you're just constantly having to stim because you have half health remaining for things that heavy armor you would often just shrug off. Like the Voteless become a non-issue unless there's like 10 of them right on top of you with heavy armor. It's very good. And the mobility downside is not a problem since you have the supply pack with you with this build. You can keep stimming if you really need the stamina to keep going. So I would recommend heavy armor on most factions, really, if you have supply pack. Basically, if it's not bugs and you have supply pack, I think heavy armor is actually the way to go. But, just my opinion, use whatever weight you want. Just my recommendation. But yeah, that's the build, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end of this long video, you're just, you're crazy, man. But you're the kind of crazy I want. And, I appreciate you guys, your support, and, I'll see you next time. Just let me know how you felt in the comments. If you have any feedback on the guide, or just to, let me know that you appreciated my work. It means a lot. And, I'll see you guys again. Peace.